Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
British Spy Stories Season 5 Kill or Be Killed. Episode 14. When MI6 Transport Branch had converted Laravelle's campervan in a backstreet engineering works near Liverpool Street Station in London, in addition to the V8 engine, they had added a covert store of equipment for field operations. As well as listening devices, cameras and mini-drones, the van contains an arsenal of SA-80 automatic weapons, 81mm mortars, and Glock 17 handguns. There's also something in the store that she needs tonight. A sedative pack number 3 that includes chloroform and chloral hydrate for rendering targets unconscious. She pushes 2 doses of the drugs into the back pocket of her jeans, leaves the campervan and makes her way to the edge of the lawns where Sylvie, the commis chef in the chateau, had told her to meet after her shift. The woman is there. They walk across the grass in the moonlight and cut up the side of the house to a staff entrance. There are 2 sets of back stairs, and they climb to the top of the building. Sylvie has a bottle of wine and bread and cheese left over from the meals tonight in the chateau. They listen to music and chat about nothing in particular. At some stage, Sylvie uses the ensuite bathroom in her room, and Laravelle drops some of the sleeping drug into the woman's wine glass. They talk on, and within 10 minutes, Sylvie's eyes start to blink more often. In another 5 after that, she is asleep on the bed. Laravelle silently opens the bedroom door and moves along the top corridor to one of the sets of back stairs. She drops down to the 2nd floor and sits in the dark on the landing, checking the time on her phone. At exactly 11:30, Hans opens the door from the corridor, and she gives him the 2nd chloral hydrate dose. Then she sits back and waits for him to do the same to Rose as Laravelle had just done to Sylvie. It takes 8 minutes before he reappears. She went quickly. She's been drinking champagne all night. They walk out to the main corridor and turn into the master bedroom suite. Rose is lying naked on the bed. They find leggings and a t-shirt for her and pull them onto her limp body. Then Hans goes down on all 4s, and Laravelle puts Rose on his back. He stands up, holding her right arm and left leg to keep her from falling. They move out into the house, Laravelle opening the doors and Hans carrying Rose. They take the back stairs, and on the ground floor, Laravelle sticks her head out of the stairwell door to check for people who might be working at this late hour. She can't see anyone and beckons Hans to move out, but a butler appears suddenly in the corridor, and Laravelle has to usher her charges back inside. They wait, hidden in the darkness, until the sounds of the man's footsteps fade away to nothing. She goes out again and double-checks, but there is no movement this time. Laravelle pulls the door, and they walk along the back corridor that leads to the basement entrance. Hans stops by the iris scanner. They struggle to maneuver Rose's body to get her face near the scanner. They succeed eventually, with Hans bending right over, leaning on the wall and pushing Rose's head over to one side to orientate her eyes. Laravelle positions 2 fingers either side of Rose's right eye and pulls the eyelid open. The scanner slides across the eyeball, but it doesn't read it properly, and they wait for the next scan, a second later. This time the lights go green, and a quiet click announces that the door to the basement is open. At the bottom of the flight of stairs, the glass panels slide silently open to reveal a large central room, offices and tunnels disappearing off into the darkness. Hans lays Rose on a sofa near the entrance, and the two spies pull out torches to explore the underground spaces and identify where cameras will be needed to give GCHQ eyes and ears down here. They walk along one of the tunnels and see lattice-work gates every few feet, which mark out a series of side rooms, each one dedicated to a grape variety within the Froissart wine collection. Hundreds of bottles are laid down, on row after row of identical racking. Each room has an atmospheric monitoring panel near the door, showing the temperature and humidity. After they look in 20 wine stores, Hans and Laravelle make their way back to the main area to plant their devices. Inside the offices there are computers, whiteboards, desks, and banks of display screens. The fact that there is one office is not a surprise. The fact that there are 10 is not what either of them had expected. "What are all these for?" says Laravelle, as they enter an office with the capacity for a dozen people. "Whatever it is, it's not used all the time," says Hans. "There's dust on these keyboards." He wipes a finger across the device and holds it up to Laravelle so she can see the dirt. "Some sort of operations room," she says. "We need to see it working to tell what they do with it." "Let's stick the cameras and bugs up, Jenny, and the techies can tell us in a few days if they see any activity." The two of them plant the devices, and when they're happy with the coverage, return to the sofa. Hans goes down on all fours again, and Laravelle loads Rose's unconscious body onto his back. She flicks off the lights. The cellars are plunged into darkness, and Laravelle switches on her torch to guide them back up the stairs to the house level. They can see the main door with the iris scanner up ahead as they approach it. The portico is glowing red to indicate the lock has reset from when they came in. Suddenly, when they're halfway up, the light changes to green, and the sound of the entrance unlocking rolls down the staircase to them. "Someone's coming in!" Hans moves as quickly as he can to turn himself around, with Rose's dead weight on his back. The woman's feet hit the wall, and he staggers but recovers his balance to get down the steps. As they retrace their route, behind them they can hear the door sliding back at the top of the flight of stairs. "Get her clothes off," whispers Hans. Laravelle can't work out the logic. "Get her bloody clothes off." She does as he says. Meanwhile, Hans is stripping naked too. "Over here," he says. They carry Rose to the sofa. Hans lays down. "Put her on top of me and hide around the back." Raymond's shift has been unadventurous tonight. He prefers it like that. He prefers just a quiet shift. But the alarm had gone off an hour ago in the security company's head office, and it's his job to do something about it. Some customers want that extra reassurance they get with the Mindful Plus service. Sadly for Raymond, Mindful Plus customers get an in-person visit, and that's his job, no matter the lateness of the hour. The alarm on the eye scanner provided by Raymond's company had triggered inside the hours of midnight and 7 a.m., and when that happens, every security incident has to be investigated on site. He's trusted. Only he knows the number codes for every eye scanner installed in this region by his company, and it's one of those sets of numbers that he pushes in to the keypad in the Chateau Froissart. He is mildly frustrated, as the man at the main gate had been difficult and had left him waiting for 10 minutes while he phoned his boss to check that Raymond can be allowed through. Raymond reaches the bottom step in the basement, and the glass slides back. There's no light in the room, but he has brought his 1,000-candle-power torch with him. He starts to take his backpack off and get the light out. But suddenly he stops and listens. What was that? some sound in the darkness. If there's an intruder, maybe they're still here. Raymond starts to walk slowly towards the sound, and he grasps the torch with his hand. Before he can switch it on, a woman's voice in obvious orgasm rides in on the air. A man's voice joins in. Raymond flicks on the torch. The couple are naked, she on top, her face buried in his chest. "What on earth?" says Hans. "We had an alarm, telling us someone came in here," says Raymond. "Apologies, monsieur." And Raymond turns tail and runs back up the stairs. Loxby has been walking all day, from one library to another, asking to see local directories and publications that might give her the address for Louis Jacobs. Finally, in the 5th library, as she searches for his name in the local newspaper archive, one result is displayed. She rushes to the inquiry desk, and the woman takes too long to find that copy of the old newspaper. Loxby flicks to the right page and scans the stories. There, at last, an article about Monsieur Louis Jacobs, collector of fine Art Deco pieces from local flea markets, and a resident of Rue Jules Besme. There's a photo too, showing him standing outside his apartment. And on the half-open door behind him is the number 10C. She returns to her hotel, buys crepes stuffed with cherries from the cafe next door, and beers from the corner shop, then eats in her room and listens to the sounds of the city gliding up from the street below. Then she sleeps. It's dark when her phone alarm wakes her. Loxby leaves the hotel and takes a cab to near Rue Jules Besme, then walks the rest of the way, just in case anyone asks the taxi driver about a young woman being dropped off late at night in the vicinity of the road. It has started to rain. She pulls up the hood on her coat, and her feet echo on the pavement. When she gets to Louis Street, she drops into the shadows of a doorway across the road from the building that contains apartment 10C. She can see the trees swaying in Elizabeth Park at the end of the road, as the rain has arrived with an April wind. The apartment windows are black, but she waits for 5 minutes, just to be sure that Louis is either away or asleep. In the doorway, her brain continues to nag at her, trying to get her to reconsider if this whole stupid plan is worth it. Her thoughts are less wild than the first night after she discovered how her father had died, but the memories of her childhood have been rolling around inside her head continually since then. The scenes rotate in her head, of her father putting a plaster on her damaged knee when she fell off the swings, of him playing frisbee with her on the beach, and the look on his face when he picked her up after her boyfriend had dumped her on her 17th birthday. "You can do better than him," is all he said. Loxby pulls back her coat sleeve and reads the time on her watch. Then she steps out across the pavement and up to the entrance to the flats. She climbs the stairs. At the door to the flat, Loxby goes down on one knee and pushes a master pick into the lock. She applies pressure, then introduces the secondary pick and rotates it. She misses the unlatch twice and has to stop and take a breath out in the half shadows that litter the stairwell in the night. Then the lock clunks, and the wood sways open, past the jamb. She slips on shoe covers before stepping over the threshold. She already has her hair stuffed up under a brand new black woolen beanie, bought with cash, and blue gloves on her hands, in an attempt to prevent leaving a DNA trail. The apartment has a central corridor, running to a sitting room at the front, with a small study and kitchen to one side. The bedroom and bathroom overlook the rear of the property. The bedroom door is closed, and she steers well clear of it, in case Louis is in there. She heads straight for the sitting room, It's neat and tidy, which doesn't surprise her. Loxby brings out a torch from her pocket and puts it on. She works quickly, rifling through drawers and shelves in the room, but there's nothing noteworthy. Once or twice, she pauses and listens for any sign of the man waking, but she hears nothing. Later she nearly jumps out of her skin when a cat lands on the flat roof outside the window, but it doesn't stop on its nightly mission. Loxby moves to the study and repeats the process. Louis is not a lover of technology, she's glad to find. He has a handwritten diary, as well as typed and printed papers, and many annotated pages of everything from electricity bills to holiday plans. She doesn't have a firm idea of what she's looking for, but it needs to be something to help her understand what happened to her father. 15 minutes later, there are only a few folders left to inspect in one of the side drawers, and she's getting despondent. There doesn't appear to be anything here to help her. Then, at last, she finds something. Loxby flicks a folder open and sees the words Nox Ventura at the top of the page. Her heart, already pounding away, revs a little harder. The folder contains what appears to be the start of a report that Louis is writing for a man called Dames. It contains information about Nox Ventura. Most of the data she recognizes from her own research. But then Louis mentions a new name. Loxby reads the words. Please see photographs I have taken of Rosalind Froissart and a new member of Nox Ventura. His name is Clive Fremont. He was at the chateau the night of the birthday party, and there were rumours, as yet unconfirmed, that he was later involved with the removal of a body from the chateau in the early hours, according to a guard who works there. She turns the page and looks at the images of Rose and Hans in a restaurant in Brussels. Her mind jumps to a conclusion. This could be him. This could be the man who killed her father. It all fits. He was in the chateau. He removed a dead body, and he's close to Rose. Loxby takes the whole folder, stuffs it inside her coat, and tiptoes back to the front door. She hurries down the stairs and out into the rain, which is heavier now. She needs to think, and she decides to walk, or at least until she gets too wet. When she reaches the end of the road, she turns south towards the city centre. Within 10 minutes, Loxby is aware of someone behind her. She pulls out her mobile phone and takes a picture over her shoulder, a technique that Riverside taught her, to see who is there without attracting attention. As she walks, she interrogates the image. Her tail is a man, and that's about all she can make out from the photo. The rain is cascading down from the night sky by the time she reaches the Sanctalet tram stop. Now she does turn and look. He is closer than a minute ago. She speeds up, and her feet start to pound out a regular rhythm on the pavement. When Loxby reaches the other side of the canal bridge, she sees a black Peugeot taxi coming towards her out of the darkness. She steps out into the road, forcing the man to stop. Without hesitating, she gets in and slams the door. The cab turns in the road and speeds off towards her hotel. Her tail stops and waits. Then he turns back and disappears into the rain that is falling on the streets of Brussels. Episode 15. The palest blue light fills the sky as the dawn pushes up across Paris. Gabby raises her arm. A cab pulls over and stops by the curb on Avenue Montaigne. 10 minutes later, the taxi drops her at the base of the Eiffel Tower, and she approaches the guards on the gate. They are on the verge of telling her that the tower is not open yet, when she pulls out her MI6 ID. They salute as they pull back an enormous bolt on a steel gate to let her through to the base of the vast structure. She takes the lift to the second level, then changes to the summit elevator. As she steps out onto the observation deck, a rush of cold air makes her pull her dark blue Balmain double-breasted coat across her body, and she walks over to a man who is standing and looking out across the city. "Good morning, Black Hawk." Sir Bernard turns as she approaches. "Hello, sir." "Apologies for the hour. I was meeting the French Prime Minister last night, and my flight leaves at 9 from Charles de Gaulle. I thought we should meet face to face after I got your note." "Thank you, sir," she says. "Have you been up here before?" "No, beautiful." "I was posted to the British Embassy in Paris in my 20s. He turns his blue eyes to her. "My main task was running an asset. She worked as a secretary in the Elysée. She was called Asset Moulinet. You may have heard of her." "I have, sir. I didn't know she was one of yours." "Colette Gagnon was her real name. She gave us a lot of intelligence. Before the French found out, she wanted to live in England. I was making arrangements for her to slip away under the cover of darkness." "Were you two?" says Gabby, but he doesn't answer her unfinished question. "She was found in the Seine with a bullet in her head." Gabby's not sure whether to continue the conversation or just let him recall. His eyes trace out the familiar streets and boulevards of the 7th arrondissement below them, stretching out south to Montparnasse. He is lost in his memories for a moment, and she doesn't speak. Eventually, his memories fade, and he turns back to smile at her. "Tell me about your proposal, Gabrielle." "Salvatore Albano, the Italian end of Nox Ventura, but temporarily here in Paris. I want to set him up as an ongoing source for us." "He's a private banker, isn't he?" says Sir Bernard. She nods. "He has an excellent reputation, and links to a whole raft of senior people that he provides personal banking services to. Apart from Louis, Rose intentionally recruited people who have no criminal past because she wants to be the queen bee. She can bully Louis, so that amounts to the same thing. Raphael in Spain was quick off the mark into this new area of stealing sensitive documents, but Salvatore is more cautious." Sir Bernard nods. "We have a unique opportunity to put him in place, and him to be useful for us in the future," she says. "What's your plan?" "We run a robbery and frame Salvatore. We use that as leverage against him, and say that we can keep the authorities off his back in return for information about his connections in private banking." "The details of your proposal that I read were impressive. He has a strong network in the finance world, and the more eyes we have there, the more likely we are to identify funding for terrorism as it bubbles up. What motivated Albano to stick his clean nose into the dirty criminal pool, do you think?" "He's just a bored rich man," she says, looking directly at her boss. "He's already a millionaire, so it's not about funding his lifestyle." "I spoke to the MI6 station chiefs in the British embassies in Paris and Rome last night. They welcomed your idea and would be keen to run him after we set him up," says Sir Bernard, and she smiles. "What robbery are you thinking of staging, Gabrielle?" "There's a security van that leaves the French Ministry of Defence every Wednesday to take papers to the various army offices around Paris. Ironically, they prefer to use hard copies rather than put information on a computer, due to the military sensitivities. We'll hijack the van and make sure there's apparent evidence of Salvatore's involvement." "All of the stolen papers must be returned to the French authorities, Black Hawk. They're an important ally." "Yes, sir," she says. "We'll leave it a couple of days, then the documents will appear somewhere and the police can find them." "Good," he says. "On the wider operation, how is Rose Frossard?" "Falling in love with Agent Hans." Gabby flashes her eyes at him to reinforce her words. "Is it under control? You used Hans in a similar way in Budapest, if I remember. He got emotionally involved then, didn't he?" "It's nothing he can't handle, sir." You need to keep an eye, Gabrielle. If his actions risk going beyond protecting British interests, you'll need to change tack. Aware, sir, she says. He's experienced. He knows what he's doing. He's never let me down. Indeed. Behind them, the lift doors open. Sir Bernard turns and sees his driver. I'm just coming, Percy, he says. Duty calls, Gabrielle. The robbery plan is approved. Thank you, sir. Let me know how it goes. He walks to the lift. Percy waits for his boss to step inside the glass-sided car. Then the doors close, and they disappear earthward. I prefer this room, says Sabina. She walks back out from the ensuite bathroom and sits on the bed next to Mikhail. I'm glad you changed the hotel booking. He takes a deep breath. There was a good reason for it. What? That woman, he says opaquely. You going to give me another clue? There are lots of women around. Eleanor Royce. The blackmailer? She opens her eyes wider, and a smile passes across her lips. Why'd you call her that? Because that's what she is, says Sabina. Did you talk to her and tell her where to go? He looks uncomfortable. Then he steps out of bed and pulls on his trousers that had been abandoned on the floor. She didn't give me a chance. His voice sounds frightened. Sabina raises an eyebrow, waiting for what's coming next. She's got a video of us. In the street? In bed, he says. It shows us fucking, Sabina. She's never heard him use that word before. Eleanor filmed us here in the hotel. She's going to send it to your husband, my wife, the TV channels, and smear it over social media. Sabina is a masterclass of serenity. What does she want? A report on Danish military spending and procurement. And what are you going to do? Her voice remains as still as a summer lake. What am I going to do? He shouts suddenly. We're both in this together. She would have jumped out of her skin in the past. But she's more in control than that these days. My marriage is going nowhere, Mikhail. Maybe this is a golden opportunity. No. He is still being loud. You have to stop her. I love my wife. Despite her outer tranquility, her eyes betray a wave of hurt that rolls through her as he says those words. Why are you here then? She says. In bed with me. He realizes too late what he has said. I love you too, Sabina. I didn't mean... Would it be that bad? She says. I couldn't. His voice is quiet now. The wind has been knocked out of his sails, and he is becalmed. She finds her blouse and pulls it across her shoulders. I've got a deal for you, she says. What? I'll talk to Eleanor Royce. The outer corners of her eyes light up in the April sunshine filtered by the curtains. And? His face screws up. You don't need to know. Why? It's not going to be illegal or anything, is it? What do you take me for, Mikhail? I'm a public servant, an elected official. There are many ways in which we can get things done, to sweep away the unwanted and the uncomfortable. He looks slightly less troubled. But you've got to promise me that we stay together afterwards, she says. I'm not doing this for nothing. I'm doing it to be with you. Of course. He sits back down on the bed near her and holds her hand. You promise, she says. He smiles. I cross my heart. First thing this morning, Louis had called in sick to his work so that he can spend the whole day researching Eleanor Royce. In his flat on Rue Jules Besme, he sits at his computer and searches the open internet for information about the woman. There is little to be found, however, which Louis was expecting, as Rose's private detective had found the same. From his years of laundering money, Louis has numerous unusual resources available to him. online sites that trade in identities, stolen goods, and other data to support illegal activity. He starts with Eleanor Royce's credit cards. He has access to the back end of a site that copies the data from card companies. All of this is used legally by the police to track criminals, and he got access to it as part of a payment from a senior police officer in Luxembourg for laundering some cash for him 2 years ago. Within 10 minutes, Louis traces a set of payment records in the name of Eleanor Royce. She's flown into Brussels from London every week for the past year and stayed in expensive hotels across the city. There are charges for restaurants in all the quarters of the capital too, giving Louis a comprehensive picture of her activity. The card is fully paid off each month from a numbered Swiss bank account. There is no name associated with the account, despite the drive in recent years by the authorities in Switzerland to increase the transparency of payments like this. Louis knows that the volume of transactions with hidden identities is on such a vast scale, it will be many years before anything is done to seriously stop this sort of transaction. One thing that is needed to open a credit card account is a passport, so Eleanor Royce must have one of those. His network of people who have used his services means that he has contacts in many high-profile organizations. He messages a man in the Belgian passport office, and within 10 minutes, an email drops into his inbox with a scan of a passport in the name of Eleanor Royce. Louis prints it out, and his eyes flick over the image. This is an excellent forgery. Creating false identities is a central part of laundering illegal money, and many times Louis has ordered passports from forgers in Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands. The Dutch forgers are the master craftsmen at creating accurate documents. On his desk, Louis has a wired phone with an old military scrambler attached to it. He picked it up from a second-hand shop in London 10 years ago. The financial police departments who specialize in capturing dirty money trails across Europe have many gizmos to allow them to eavesdrop on mobile and digital telephone calls, but anything analog leaves them isolated, so the forgers use these phones all the time. He dials a number and waits for the call to be answered. Peter. Louis. Long time, Louis. I thought you'd found a better supplier than me. There's no better forger than you, Peter. You know that. The man makes a mild laugh down the line. I'm tracing a British passport created in the last year, maybe in the last 6 months. Eleanor Royce is the name. You got an image? 1 minute. Louis puts the passport photo in a scanner beside him, and the light from the machine flicks left and right as it records the pixels. He presses a button on the top of the machine, and it sends the picture through the scrambler to Peter. Not one of mine, says the man. It's very good. Nearly perfect. Who did it, can you tell? It has to be Raver, this quality. I don't know him, says Louis. Can you get in touch? It's urgent. I'll come back in an hour. Louis walks to the kitchen while he waits and pours himself a glass of red burgundy. He places the glass on the table beside his armchair. He knows that he needs to finish his report to Inspector Dames, but he hasn't had the time. He walks to the drawers beside his desk, but it's not there. He's certain he put it in that drawer 2 days ago. His mind rolls around, trying to find some logic, but he can't. Maybe he's stressed. Maybe he imagined putting the report there at all. The harsh ring of the old telephone crashes his thoughts. It is one of Raver's, says Peter. 7 months ago, rush job. Order came from London. Any more about her? Her real name? Yeah. Louis picks up a pen and is poised to write on a pad by the phone. Go on, he says. Clémence Froissart. Louis doesn't say anything, and there's dead air for a moment. Did you hear me, Louis? Yes. You're right, says Peter, in the earpiece. Yeah. You owe me one, Louis. Don't forget. Of course, Peter. Thank you. The line cuts off. Louis sits back in the armchair and drinks from his wine glass. Froissart, he says, quietly. His first thought is self-protection, and how he can use this information to his advantage. No, more than that. How can he use this information to clear his name, get away from Dame's sticky fingers, and remove Rose's pressure on him, all in one go? He returns to his computer and searches for Clémence Froissart. He accesses 2 sites he knows that provide identity tracking. It takes him only a few minutes to find a record of the woman, the illegitimate daughter of Alain Froissart, disowned by the family, it appears. Publicly, the only heiress to the Froissart millions is Rose. But this new news puts a cat amongst the pigeons. He can feel his heartbeat rising in his chest. Patently, Rose doesn't know about Clémence, or she would never have asked Louis to research the woman. Maybe he should tell the Nox Ventura partners, in confidence. Salvatore is very experienced at managing difficult situations. And Oliver too, probably. Will he need to blackmail her? That's not his forte. He never needs to pressurize people when he launders their cash. They're only too happy for him to provide his services, and they pay him well. But now he wants to stop Rose. He wants to stop her constant pressure. And now he has the golden opportunity to do just that. Finally, now, he can get back his freedom.